Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Thank you, Sean, for that introduction, and welcome to No Dice, No Glory's discussion of Armored Fists, the new Flames of War supplement that covers mid-war. I'm joined tonight by Iron Tom Burgess.
Hey, Scouts out, guys.
By Dennis Matt Varnish Campbell.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And I am Tom Chairborne Mullane, and I tried to get rid of that nickname in my authorship posts, but Troy Hill, our editor extraordinaire, has continued to add it on. So thank you, Troy, for doing that for me.
One of the more epic nicknames.
It's deserved. I understand why I have it.
It's battle hardened, man.
It's battle hardened. So we're going to start off just by catching listeners up with what you guys have been up to lately. I've been pretty boring, so I'll go last. But Tom Burgess, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to the last couple weeks.
Most significantly, Adepticon was last weekend, and managed to play in the Team Yankee tournament and not do very well. And then running Soviets and East Germans, and then in the version 4 mid-war event, managed to do fairly well. Came in second, went undefeated, played 4 German players, which was great. So all red on blue matchups. 3 of them were Panzer forces and 1 a DAC infantry force, and did fairly well. It was just real pleasant experience to fight those forces on those boards, and very fortuitous situation for me.
What were you running?
Lucked out.
What were you running for Team Yankee? What was your list like?
Oh, I had a Soviet mechanized battalion with a BMP-1 company, a small BMP-2 company, and then a bunch of support stuff. And then I also took an East German Panzer battalion with mostly T-55s, but one small company of T-72. So I just did not play well. I'm really not used to assaulting with the BMPs and dismounting the infantry in close. I tried to march infantry across open fields, just things. I just made many mistakes on less than optimal boards, and faced some pretty good opponents who really made me pay for my mistakes. So no regrets, but it was a tough day. And then, but hang in there. The next day was fine.
Like, was there equipment for the East Germans you wish you'd brought? Because I don't think I've played a good game against the East Germans in the entirety of my Team Yankee experience. I've gotten rolled like every time. So is there something like you wish you had in your toolkit that you didn't?
I would probably like 1 more artillery battery. My good friend Chris Grau designed the list for me, and he did a great job. It was fairly useful. I just didn't run it well. It had all the tools. I just didn't think about how I was going to approach and how I was going to get stuff into the action. So it just wasn't. And to be fair, most of my preparation and build up was focused on mid-war version 4. So it was a secondary effort, and it showed.
So what'd you run for your mid-war list that you did well with?
I ran 2 Crusader formations with Dennis's favorite card, the Scout card, for the last hurrah, because the last time I ever used it. But I was a little bit more balanced. I only had 24 tanks only. I had two formations of 12 tanks each, and 1 headquarters and 3 platoons apiece. But then for support, I had the 25 pounders, which worked out exceedingly well. I thought I'd be facing Italian gun lines, and I thought I'd need more bombardment capability. But it turns out those 25 pounders with the scouts, the universal carriers, using them spearheads and getting them in closer to the range, that I use them in direct fire a lot. And the Hurricanes were phenomenal. Most of my opponents will tell you that those things are just ungodly deadly. So the funny thing is everybody's all worried about my tanks, but yet it was my Hurricanes and 25 pounders. It really tore up most of my opponents, but so be it.
Were you running 4 or 8 25s? I guess at that points level.
Yeah, I only had 4. I had the single unit.
So remind me, because I actually have not played in a mid-war tournament. They always seem to fall on some wedding or birthday or something else. I can't do it. But like, what does the Scout card do, and what did they nerf it to do?
It used to be 1 point for the entire force, regardless of how many units, regardless of how many formations. And it gave you, it basically made you be hit on 4s instead of 3s. So that was pretty significant. But if that weren't enough, it also gave you the scout ability so that if you're moving and concealed, you're also gone to ground. And it also increased your tactics ratings for doing your blitz and shoot and scoot type moves. And then the only drawback is it reduced the speed of your tanks by 2 inches. So the Crusaders went from 14-inch move to 12-inch move, which
who cares?
Yeah, it wasn't
for all that.
It definitely wasn't balanced. It definitely needed to be addressed. I do think they overkilled it because I don't think you'll ever see it used anymore. And if you look at that card itself, it says that they started acting more like scouts when the heavier tanks came online. Heavier tanks being the Grants and later on the Shermans. So I think the card should have had some sort of connection between for every Grant or Sherman unit you take, you can use that card to upgrade a corresponding light tank unit. Crusaders or Honeys. But as it was, the swarms were making great use of this, me being one of them. But that being said, I'm the only British player that ended up in the top 10. Nobody else, including those that also took scout cards, even got in the top 10. So, you got to remember that it's still a force that has platoons that only have 3 vehicles that run on a 5+, or only hold the ground on a 5+, I should say. So they're still quite frail. They still can be dealt with. And but I just had a good day because of matchups. I just really was very fortuitous. The best opponent for me to fight was Panzer companies, and I got 3 of them. And
Nice.
I got 3 of them in battles where I was the attacker every single time, and they were starting with reserves. So that just compounded their problems.
Yeah, it couldn't be better.
It was a perfect storm for me to do well with my mediocre skills. So it was nice to get up in the up close to the top. But Chris Novak won the event. He ran a Pioneer company, so a DAC infantry company with a Pioneer card. And I think he had 2 units of 6-pounders and a unit of 25-pounders, all captured, and martyrs for his only tanks. And he went straight 8-1s all 4 games.
Good for him.
So hats off to Chris.
So Dennis, tell us what you have been up to.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I came back from Cold Wars, and I know we did the podcast after the Team Yankee event, where we discussed, the secret factory that built all the 6-pounders that everybody used for the war, like Chris Novak discussed. And then the next day, I played in the Flames of War tournament with my horde of Italians, and I ended up playing James Best Senior. Then I played James Copeland, and then I played James Best Jr. So I played all Jameses. And if you think 24 Crusaders is a horde, so it was a 115-point tournament, and I faced, and again, this is a case of don't hate the player, hate the game, as Ice-T would say. James Copeland ran as many Honey Stewarts as he could get his hands on in the tri-state area. He said he would have brought more if he could have gotten his hands on more. But he had at least 54 Honey Stewarts.
Oh, my God.
With, of course, the scout card. Yeah, so my match was dust up. So he had about 30-something Honey Stewarts. He got to – he rolled attacker. He pushed me in a table quarter where there's like these giant – and they're the battlefront tables, right? So there's one battlefront table with these giant cornfields.
Yeah, I recognized it.
So he had the giant cornfield. So on his turn, like I played as smart as I could. You know what I mean? I put my 88s dug in. I had my Elephantino guns dug in, but it didn't matter because I counter spearheaded him. So I pushed his spearhead back as far as I could. But it didn't matter. He went first. So on his turn 1, he road dashed his Honey Stewarts on my one flank, like just behind these hedges. And again, because of the scout card, they're hit on 4+, but they also get gone to ground while moving.
Oh my God.
So I was hitting him on 6s. And then on my close flank, he just pushed about 16 tanks right in my grill and didn't fire. Right? So they're all concealing on the ground. And I'm like, well, that sucks. And then I shoot. I killed a couple, but it didn't matter. And then after that, he just drives up, pins everything. It was just one of those
No,
it was the least fun I've ever had. And honestly, at the very beginning of the game, I actually just shook his hand and said, "I'm going to go shopping. I don't even want to play this list." We played it anyways.
Yeah. Hey, one thing, Dennis, I was noting in your photos I looked at was that those guys on your left flank that were facing the honeys and it looked like the cornfield or the wheat field or whatever it was. It looked to me like those your anti-tank guns were elevated. So he should not have been concealed and therefore should not have been gone to ground where you shooting down from him.
Is that a rule or is that something?
Yes, the Elephantinos were elevated, but what was it? I can't remember.
I remember that being an FAQ thing in version 3, but I don't know if it was a version 4 carryover.
No, in version 4, high terrain negates low terrain. You just see right in there.
That was the only unit where I did, but I mean, I still whiffed.
Oh yeah, Well, with those numbers, it might have made a very small difference. But I was just wondering if you didn't get a good shot at them, at least to take out a platoon or two. But
I mean, I had 8 shots.
Even a veteran's only 4 hit.
I'm hitting on 4s.
So I'll tell you, Dennis. I would have gone shopping too. I would have gone shopping too. And look, to the guy's credit, just like you said, that's a game breaker. Like he looked at the rules, he figured out a way to tweak it. Because if you can upgrade 45 tanks for 1 point, you should
would
be able
have
to do that.
60 if he could have gotten his hands on. And what was funny too is that on Facebook it was a discussion about Churchills, and I just go can confirm playing against the old scout, and I just posted just his army and the scout card, and then I went to work the next day, and then at lunch look up and I go, I had 57 responses, and I'm like, wow. So Phil Yates was in there too. Like he just got crucified. But I mean, you know what? It's his game, and yes, it wasn't very balanced. And to what we were talking about before, so we did kind of find out what it's going to be. So now it's 2 points per unit that can take it, must take it. Which again, like Tom mentioned, Iron Tom mentioned, it's way too much. I agree where that should have been given to a Grant or a Sherman HQ commander. Like if it's available through that, then yes, they were more careful. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I played that. I played the other two the James Bests. I got a win, a loss, and a draw. So I can't really complain too much about it. It was still a good time, but that one game was, and I mentioned this as well in Facebook, but I mean, it's not on here, but there was a bunch of players that were brand new. That was their first tournament. And I was like, wow, guys, I know you guys are green shirt Masters players, but way to turn off someone from ever coming to a tournament again. Well done. Slow clap.
Yeah, that stinks. That stinks. I mean, I look forward to the tournaments because I know that in a lot of cases, that's the chance I'm going to get to play anybody. So I'm competitive, but I'm more of I like the experience. I'd rather have a fun game and lose.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Well, that's just me.
It wasn't a nationals. It wasn't a super large event. It probably didn't mean as much, for green shirt standings and all that jazz, but
you still took that list, so it meant something, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember the time when they were trying to make a point and showing that certain rules were not working when they all brought the bar, way back, where they're like, we're going to show you how this doesn't work. I don't know. I don't think I would play lists like that, mostly because I wouldn't want to pay for all the models. I wouldn't want to go to that trouble.
Well, and the thing is, his models, some of them were his, some of them weren't. It's weird. And I don't know if there's a correlation.
Dennis, for the record, all my Crusaders are mine.
Oh no! I know you.
All painted by me with nice little pennants. And
I know yours are. Yeah, you've got the nice fanions on everybody. Yeah. It's just one of those things where just the guys I saw that were there. Not a lot of stuff was painted, and it's like your high level players at least have it painted. Like he had just straight white honey stewards.
It's like that. It's like those old Games Workshop tournaments where it's like 3 colors. It's one of those. Yeah.
It wasn't even 3 colors. But anyways, so I had that. Was my second day a couple weeks ago. I did a lot of shopping. And today I just played a game using played against Armored Fist, actually. Played against Daimler's. The guy had a Sherman company. He had a Sherman HQ, only had 71 points, so he didn't have very many models, but he did something interesting that I'm going to copy. This is my good friend Rob. He was rocking, to make them cheaper, 2 Shermans and 1 Grant, and was always moving the shots around with mistaken target, and it made it slightly cheaper.
Huh.
And he was able to just squeeze in 2 priests, which, yeah, there's only 2 of them, but boy, howdy, being fearless, and they can blitz forward and then direct fire you in the face with strength 9, 8, firepower 2+.
No, those things are excellent. Those things are excellent.
Yeah, they're just a little expensive. So in terms of Flames of War, that's what I haven't painted a single thing since I got back from Cold Wars. I should have, considering the amount of models that I bought. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. And Tom?
So my last thing. So we did. I'm going to do a write up of this, and I took some pictures. But the club that I play at Hobbytown, USA, in New Milford, Connecticut, to give them a plug, we got the game night kit, and I have a bunch of students that have been building armies and kids that were interested in doing it, new players, the kind of people that Battlefront is excited to grab. Mm-hmm. And we set up a whole day for them this past Saturday. So we had maybe 10, 12 people come in and out. I used all my terrain to set up 2 tables. There were people playing games on them all day. We had a whole painting area. People were painting. Because the cool thing about that, and I know that there's been unboxings posted elsewhere, is it really doesn't just encourage the people to pull out the beat stick and just wail on the new players. Like, it's not about who wins how many games. It's about, like, you score points for that month if you bring in a new player, if you painted a unit. It's a really great idea, and I think it's a smart move on Battlefront's part. It's a cool thing. You can give out little prizes that mean a lot to the new players. The kids were psyched about that. So we raffled off some stuff because Lord knows I have more than enough models to try to raffle stuff off. But so at the end of the month, we're going to give some stuff away. So that was my weekends. I'm going to post about this like later this month, but my obsession with like British Airborne stuff and like the whole urban cityscape that I built. I have all the Frost skies. I have all the heroes. So I didn't quite realize how much I had until I opened all these blisters and started to prime them and base them, because I'm going to take a picture of this. Because I have to, I guess there's like 300 to 400 figs more.
Wow.
I basically have an entire,
a lot of camouflage.
I have an air landing company, all of them, every possible gun team, 8-pack howitzers. I made objective markers. There's 6 objective markers that I made. There's accompanying locust tanks. There's those stupid Bofors AA modified para things you can take in one list. And then I went and bought another company. So the other company is all the blisters of the airborne field engineers that come with the little Pioneer carts, right? You used to pay for the Pioneer supply cart, and you get all this extra stuff. So I made a model of that, and then I used extra figs to space them out and have less dudes. So, you can take up to like, so I think if you bulk them up, the field engineers, you can take like 14 stands.
You have all of those.
When you count. So I can take 3 full platoons of 3 squads, which means 12 stands apiece, plus the commander, plus the Piat, plus the MGs. I dug through my closet and I'm like, what have I done? I was like, how did I do this to myself? So I'm painting them by platoon.
So has your wife called A&E to get you on an episode?
No, but she comes in and she'll ask me like, oh, what are you painting now? And then she'll have this like cloud come over her face and she's like, is it Germans?
No.
And I'm like, no, it's the British. And then she'll like breathe a sigh of relief. And she's like, oh, good. Okay. That's fine.
Because she thinks it's still the same project. Which it is.
And she's like, then she'll have that moment of realization where she's like, wait, this is the same? How long have you been working on this? And I'm like, 4 years. Yeah. So they look great. They look great, but geez.
I just finished off a Jagdpanther unit that has been primed and based for 6 years, sitting on my painting shelf.
Well, then I have more of that in my future, Tom. I'm
But you know
sure.
what? There's nothing more satisfying than getting an old unit done. Like in February, I want to say it was February, late January, I finally finished my Crusaders, and actually it was because of Iron Tom's some of the pictures he had. I was like, oh, I've got these Crusaders. They're like 3/4 of the way done. Let me just do them.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah,
Literally did the same thing.
It's like now, I'm close. I played some games today, and now I'm like more rejuvenated to paint some of my British. So
yeah, I totally saw Tom's stuff, and I was like, I need to finish these Crusaders.
My Crusaders are the old black resin Crusaders.
Oh, the resin ones.
Ooh, that's ancient.
That's ancient. Yeah, you win. Mine are the new plastic ones. So
come in those little square green boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should hook me up with some these spare turrets. I need some spare turrets. Anyways, I digress. From the plastic kits.
All right, so I'm going to make a note for Sean's benefit that we are 20 minutes in, and we are now going to start talking about Armored Fist. This way, if somebody wants to skip over us blathering on about all the awesome, fun stuff we're painting, they have the opportunity to.
Oh, we can say Armored Fist begins at...
Yeah, it begins at 20 minutes, I think, unless they stick something in the middle. But I think we're good. All right, so we'll start off by just saying that, just like I did in the article I wrote, we're going to skip over the stuff that was in Desert Rats because it's already covered. You can find the stuff on WWPD's site. You can see us talking about it, referencing it, or making lists. But that means that while we might make cursory reference to them, excuse me, I burped, we're not going to talk about the Grant Squadron. We're not going to talk about the Crusader Squadron, the Honeys, or the Motor Company. We're going to focus on Sherman's, Death or Glory, Churchill's, Valentine's, and the infantry. So let's see. As I scroll down, so let's start by talking Shermans. So let's talk Shermans, and Dennis, you played with them or against them. So go into a little bit more about what you think about the list.
Well, playing against Shermans today, I was running a Panzer company. I wanted to see how they would fare against the high armored stuff. So front armor 6, side armor 4, and packing an AT-10 gun. Panzer 4s that don't have the long gun need not apply. I had 3 of those, and their job. I was sure he was going to have infantry or guns. My friend Rob, he's an ex-artillery guy, so he always has guns, always. So I'm like, there's going to be 25 pounders, and their sole job is going to be to pin them for a little while, and then I can deal with stuff. So I had 3 of the Panzer F1s in new money. That's Panzer 7.5, Panzer 4 7.5 shorts.
Okay,
stubby gun that can bombard. I also had 3 Panzer 3s, 2 HQ Panzer 2s, and then the Aufklärung, a bunch of 8 rads and scout cars. So I ran that, and he ran mostly tanks. And I was like, okay. And I'm telling you, he just sat them in the he did what you're supposed to do with those kind of tanks. Sit in the back. There's no point even risking anybody getting side armor shots on you.
Yeah.
Armor 6 at long range is really armor 7. And I didn't have martyrs, so he should have just sat in the back, and that's exactly what he did. I forced the issue, however, with all my scout cars. And I was right on the objective right away, and I reminded him during the game, hey, by the way, I'm going to win if you don't contest. So I was forcing him to make all these moves. But man, oh man, even side armor shots. I mean, the Panzer III is AT-9 on the main gun, but short range. He was outranging me with his range 28, strength 10 gun. I had to go for broke straight up the middle. I lost a bunch of vehicles. He rolled really horribly, but like I said, the interesting thing that he ran was the 1 Grant in each to make them cheaper by 3 points.
Which is an option in the regular armored troop.
Which is an option in the regular armored troop.
So for 24 points, you can take 2 Shermans and a Grant, which is not a bad bargain. You save 3 points.
Well, even if you break it down, so you break it down, and at that point, they're just as expensive as some other of the German tank units, but in my opinion, they're better. Now, they do not have direct or semi-indirect fire. I was expecting them to have semi-indirect fire, but they don't.
There's a command card, but
yeah,
it only applies to the HQ,
which is idiotic.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Anyway.
Another unit that he had that's native to Armored Fist was the Priests. He didn't use them as Tom alluded to. He didn't use them. He used them once as bombardment, but they were great as like miniature martyrs.
Yeah, I mean, it's 18-9, right? Yeah,
it's 18-9 firepower 2+. It has better armor than a martyr. It's 3+ from the front. Or sorry, 3 frontal armor. So what I had put up against them was all my scout cars, and even my 2 centimeters were just pinging off the front. I had to basically get into the side, and he left them in a tree line, so he was concealed the entire way. He played that beautifully, again he surprised me again with another little unit that I didn't even think of until I looked at it, and that is the Daimler Dingo combination.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that because that's like my favorite armored vehicle in the game. And you know that because we played them together at doubles.
Oh, yeah.
I have a million of those things.
I was like, oh, okay, so it's just a little, I was like, okay, whatever. They're like,
You confuse it with the Humber, right? Because the Humber's garbage.
That's what I thought they were. And then he's like, nope, they're 2-pounders to the side. I'm like,
2-pounders.
So he ran 3 units new to Armored Fist. And I'll say this, the Priests were expensive, but I think they're a hybrid unit of you bombard if you have to the first couple of turns, but then you use them as, with blitz them up onto a hill, or a reverse slope on a hill and direct fire with that 18-9 2+.
So for reference, the Priests are 5 points apiece. So you can get 2 for 10 or you can get 4 for 20.
And 4 for 20, I think, is in the insane department of points. If you've got nothing else, and he just ran 2. So yeah, for bombardment, you have to re-roll the hits.
No, like I'll say that, in the tank preview that I did, where I sort of evaluated the tanks and how I thought of them, like you can poop on me because in the games I've played, and I played about 4, and we discussed this before we got on. Like I fought against Shermans, but it should be mentioned that I was fighting against American Shermans. And there's a difference. That's a substantial one.
It's easier to hit the American ones.
It is easier to hit the American ones, but they have stabilizers. And those stabilizers are quite effective with an AT-10 gun, as long as they're hitting like some of the cheaper stuff. If you're hitting stuff that gets beat up on a 3, like my little Crusaders, then those Crusaders are in trouble. They're going to get eaten up real fast. Is there a difference in points for the American Shermans? Because I don't have that up in front of me. Are they more expensive or are they cheaper? They're cheaper because they're hit on a 3.
Yeah, and they have lower skill ratings too.
Yeah, that's right. They can't do.
They're not going to blitz.
No, they're not going to blitz as often. Yeah, well, so it was an interesting
stabilizers.
Yeah, so that's my quick view on the game I played against. Now I end up winning purely on my friend Rob. I mean, he had 1 Grant and 2 Shermans, stationary, shooting at scout cars, close range, not concealed, and all he could do was bail all 3.
That's crazy.
That's bad dice rolling, and then my guys all got back in and just drove off. I mean, that's just, you know what I mean? There's stuff like that. So he would have won the game, and instead of as a 4-3 for me, I was able to take one of his objectives.
I feel like I was pretty biased against the Shermans because I play so much late war that without having been able to test it in mid-war, it didn't occur to me that the side 4 is actually not bad. Like that side armor is better than my front for the Crusader, and the front 6 is terrifying against an 18-9. They're going to bounce a ton of shots.
Well, I filmed a second game, and Rob was just driving into British infantry, and then the British player's like, "Oh, well, you're not going to shoot me to pin me," and it's like, "Well, I don't need to pin you." Well, for defensive fire, it's like, "What do you have? A boy's anti-tank rifle?" It's like, "Yeah, I don't care about that." And I'm just like, "You're right. you just don't care. You just drive in. You know what I mean? You just drove in and started slaying people.
Rate of fire 1, can't stop the charge.
Can't stop the charge.
Can't stop the charge. It was pretty cool to see. I was like, yeah, side armor and the Grant has the same side armor.
Is there a more worthless piece of equipment than the boys anti-tank rifle? Like I
historically, apparently the soldiers would actually pitch it into the sand and claim they lost it because it was heavy and useless. They're like, well, if it's going to be useless, I may as well not have to carry it.
Yeah, like I basically clipped the boys anti-tank rifle off of my model, and then I took a plastic sprue piece and I made it into a flamethrower because I'm like, no,
I turned mine into
fuse. Refuse. Yeah,
I have killed a tiger in mid-war in assault with a boys anti-tank rifle in version 3.
You monster!
It's only happened once, but yeah.
No, I haven't even hit somebody with the AT rifle. Like I fired it, I just miss. Like it's adorable. It's the most adorable weapon.
No, but the thing is, range 20 isn't bad when you're shooting at random stuff.
No, if you shoot like a little armored car or something like that. Yeah. No, Tom, when you ran this in version 3, did you ever run a mid-war Sherman company?
No, not for the British. My British force for mid-war 3 was exclusively British rifles with Churchills.
With Churchills, that's what I run.
Yeah. I just the Shermans didn't appeal to me previously. I am going to get some now, at least one unit of them to run with my Crusaders in a later version, and I'm definitely going to add the Priest. I know they're 20 points, but I'm just thinking that's a great addition to an all-light tank force because it will help me with the bombardments with a higher firepower, and it will help me as a stopgap tank, and it'll be more resilient against counter battery fire from other artillery units, and it has AA machine guns, and I mean, I'm just like that. I'm paying that 4 points to upgrade my 25 pounders to these things.
Oh yeah. I think it's worth it. It's well worth it. Let's jump down to the next list. So let's look at the 6th Mailed Fist Armored Division.
Death of Glory.
Which is the Death of Glory guys. So Tom Burgess, have you taken a look at this at all?
Yeah, I'm seriously considering this as my next unit.
So let's talk about what you like.
Because I need more Crusaders, right? And these guys have more Crusaders. They do. I dig the look of them. I really do. I think they're an awesome looking unit. I have the Death and Glory dice already, from the Team Yankee counterparts. Oh, yeah. I like the history of them. I just like the look of them. And I like the odd mix with the Valentine supported by all 6-pounder Crusaders. So they won't be my Desert Rats Crusaders, or correction, my first Armored Division Crusaders. I didn't go Desert Rats. It won't be those being used in this list. I'm gonna go ahead and get some more Crusaders and get some Valentines and get these guys on the field.
So are you gonna take the Lee command, because they can take not Grants, they can take Lees as their commands, which I think is nuts.
I'm considering that. I don't have mid-war Americans, so but I do have late war rifles that I could be using as mid-war. So having a unit that's because the British, these guys apparently they're the Lees they got a hold of, they didn't bother to repaint. So having those American Shermans, American Lees in the list as the headquarters in American paint seems appropriate. So that might be good for dual duty. I'll probably pick up a unit just to experiment, but I'm probably I like the CS tank option and the actual Valentine headquarters troop. You get the Valentine tanks with the one or two Valentines with 2-pounders, and you get 2 Crusader CS tanks, which I'm getting much more use out of those things than I ever thought I would. So I'd still like to have those in this incarnation.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the stats of the Valentine real quick. We have access to the book. The book was briefly for sale at Cold Wars, and they sold out, so I couldn't get mine. But
yeah,
the Valentine 3 is front armor 6, so same as a Sherman.
Yep.
But they're cheapest chips.
Yeah, the 2 and 3 both have the 2. Correction, yes.
They both have front armor 6. However, the side armor is 5 on the Valentine 3.
Valentine 8 actually.
Sorry.
The 6-pounder version is the Valentine 8.
Right.
Right. And that one has side armor 6, I believe.
Which we should point out is not in this squadron. So, the Death or Glory squadron is very specific. It's aggressive. It's hit on a 3. Yeah. They all have 2-pounders. There are no available. You can't take the Valentine 8s.
Yeah,
but that's why that's why their Crusader, one of the Crusader units is all the 6-pounders for the extra.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't even have 2-pounder Crusaders.
That's right.
It's just 6-pounders. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
I hit on 3+.
I think that one of my favorite things about the version 4 stuff is, like, as a British player, and I think Tom can speak to this too, and I mean, Matt, you do this too, but the CS tanks were never worth taking. Like in late war or mid war, ever. You never took them. But version 4 changed it completely. You dropped smoke once, but now it's a whole bombardment plate. So, and there's not the same penalty for only having one of them. It used to be it would be +1 to hit. Now it's not. Mm-hmm. If I'm reduced to one part for the bombardment, I still do just as much damage, which makes some of the American units interesting because the Americans take that 160 mortar that can bombard. So, like,
you still have to reroll to hit, but it's not the reroll and +1. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You still reroll to hit, but that would be the case if you had 2 guns or not. So, like,
not so bad against trained and conscript stuff.
Yeah, I feel like these CS tanks have so much more utility in this version of the game than they did in version 3.
Yeah. And direct fire smoke. I've gotten in the habit of laying down the direct fire smoke later on in the game to help, again, provide some protection for the other tanks.
My Panzer IV F1, same business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that the Death and Glory headquarters squadron or headquarters troop the way it is. And though I probably will do the Lees just to have an option and throw it in there from time to time or use it with American forces in other battles.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, Mitch has made the request that he be allowed to come in and give you a quick announcement about upcoming tournaments. So we're going to pause for a quick break, and we will be right back.
Hey guys, Throck here. I stole the microphone from Mitch because I don't like to let him talk. A couple of quick announcements here while the boys go refill their beer. First up, don't forget to hit the website www.NoDiceNoGlory.com and sign up on the forums to keep the conversation going. We've also got an important event announcement for you. Coming up April 21st at 10 a.m. here on the East Coast, we have the Game Tavern's Trial by Fire Tournament. This 1775-point late war tournament will begin at 10 a.m. in Chantilly, Virginia. That's at 4142 Walney Road, right here in Northern Virginia. So if you feel like traveling or you're somewhere on the East Coast, come on down and throw down with your buddies and play some late war Flames of War. I'm sure the boys have got their beer by now, so I'm going to throw it back to the podcast.
And we are back after the break. I'm sure that whatever Mitch said was not insulting to me in any way.
I wouldn't count on it.
But I'm not going to count on that. So to pick up where we left off, we're at, I think, my favorite spot, which is the 78th Battle Axe Division, which includes the North Irish Horse. And I'm going to start by just issuing a mea culpa to the people that eagle-eyed read my article and realized that I'm an idiot. And I didn't read this book so carefully because when it's digital, I guess there's things that you miss. I don't know, I got distracted, but whatever. So you are allowed in the version 4 rules to take that as a support option. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, guys. You can take as a support option any combat platoon that you would take from another formation.
Any black box.
Any black box.
Basically, is the easiest way to think about it.
You only take one of those, right?
Correct. So otherwise you have to do the full-on formation. So that means that if you're taking an infantry formation for the British, or if you're taking a motor company for the British, you can take just one platoon of these Churchills. Which is more than enough in some cases, as I will discuss. So
probably all you have the points for.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of ironic that Battlefront has tricked me into buying more Churchills, and let me explain to you why. So I bought the Churchill 4-5. Like, I got them when they were selling them in resin. When they gave you the platoon of 3, a little box. I'm sure you guys got a couple of those, and I also bought some of the resin ones, the Churchill 3s that had the boxier turret. And I also got the ones that have the fuel trailer for the Churchill 7. And when I started making them, I realized that the different lists that I could bring had so many different potential options for guns that it was driving me crazy. And I was like, I'm not buying twice the Churchills so I can put every different 70, some have 75 mil, some have a CS gun, and some of them have this. So I said, you know what? I'm going to descend into the seventh circle of hell, and I'm going to magnetize every one of these guns. And then I did it with a little pin vise drill. I drilled into every single one of these like 15 Churchills that I bought, and I magnetized with tiny little magnets every single gun. So every one of these Churchills can be a CS tank, a 6-pounder, a 75, an NA75, blah, 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 whatever. And then I realized, you know, the hull in the Churchill 3 is different. I'm gonna buy another one. So I'm buy another one of these.
Yeah, a little bit.
I got to buy more of these now.
Hey man, you got to come up to Canada and for Canadian Nationals one day, if they still have it in Ottawa. The Canadian War Museum is just down the block, and they've got a bridge layer and a I want to say it's a Churchill 5, Churchill 4.
No, I'm coming this year. That's the plan. I'm saving my money. You know, I'm working at Starbucks or whatever I have to do, and I swear to God, if you're a friend of mine and you're listening to this, and you think you're getting married on Labor Day weekend, you're wrong. Okay, because you're not. It's 4 years in a row. It's 4 years of weddings, like 27 weddings. And I'm a licensed minister. I'll marry you whenever you want. Okay.
If I could just jump in, we talked about the formation support, and I just happened to be on that page. It's really strange. Unlike other lists, potentially, for Armored Fist, it says formation support. You may field compulsory combat units with a black box from the above formations as support units. So that we already discussed. You can have more than one. You can have a bunch of them. However, remember how we talked about, or you can take a formation?
Yes.
You can't. The only formations you're allowed to take is an allied support, and that says you can field one compulsory unit from a U.S. formation as support, and one U.S. formation. So the formations are U.S. You can't take an allied. That doesn't make any sense because you just take the formation anyways. I'm an idiot. Just cut that out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cut that out. I thought I was being clever, and then I'm like, no, I'm an idiot.
Well, so I was trying to run the numbers on this as a formation, like the Churchill Armored Squadron formation, the Irish Horse, and I was like, at 71 points, it's not happening. You don't have the tools. You're foregoing artillery or you're foregoing infantry. If you have to hold stuff in reserve, you're toast.
33 points isn't bad if you're taking all infantry and guns, though.
Yeah,
no, correct. I see these being taken a lot as a support formation of 3 tanks.
Or 2 tanks. You can actually take just.
You can take two.
Yeah. One of these platoons was more expensive than an entire formation of Crusaders.
Yes.
I was running an Adepticon.
Yep. Completely.
One of my guys today, he was like, what do I ditch? He goes, okay, so I'll lose an entire motor formation.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we were talking about the CS option. So just to talk about the HQ for this thing, right? So you basically have 3 choices. Okay. You can take one Churchill 3, which is get the 6-pounder gun, and then you can take 2 Churchill CS tanks. It's 11 points a tank, no matter what. That's option 1. Option 2, you take 1 Churchill 3, 1 CS for 22 points, or you can make all 3 tanks in that HQ platoon the 6-pounder Churchills. Normally, if it's Crusaders, I want the CS tank, but with the Churchills, I feel like it's a waste. It's a waste because why would I buy this tank with front armor 8 with an AT5 gun that's just not going to do the job? I feel like I have better artillery options than taking the CS tanks for this. I would never take the CS tanks in a Churchill HQ.
In late war, the CS tank has 2 3-inch guns, one in the turret and one in the hull. So each vehicle counts as 2 guns for bombardment, which now with 2 in the headquarters gives you a full battery. Mm-hmm. That might be worth it in late war, but yeah, right now it's just one 3-inch gun and a 2-pounder you never get to shoot.
Good point.
But I'm glad they included the option because there are people out there who have they're like, I'm fielding the historical formation.
Yeah, it's good to have as an option for sure.
And at least the option is there. Like, look at all those options. You can take just one Churchill if you want as a HQ.
I almost want to have one just so I've modeled one. Like, if I get a box set of these and I get a bunch of them, I kind of want, because the hull looks cool. Like the turret looks
cool. The one option with the 1 Churchill 3 and the 1 Churchill CS. Remember, we talked about how you don't get any worse from one gun shooting versus 2. So that 1 Churchill CS.
I just wish it was cheaper. I just wish it was cheaper. But you know what? Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're running mostly tanks and if you're running Churchills, well, let's face it, you're running mostly tanks. that one Churchill CS can sit in the back near an objective and just pound all day with its bombardment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the greatest bombardment in the entire world. It's only 32. But
so let's dig into the stats on this again, just to sort of brief people, because if you don't have the book in front of you, it bears repeating. So front armor 8, side armor 7, top armor 2. It's hit on a 4, unlike some of the other more aggressive formations that the British have, which means it's basically it's a vet for those of us in version 3.
Ammo.
Protected ammo means it remounts on a 3. It counterattacks on a 3 because it's designed to assault. It passes motivation on a 4, which means follow me's are going to happen. And it's going to be, it doesn't have the same 5+ last stand that it's Grant and Crusader, and it crosses on a 2. This thing is a beast. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that cross too. Longstop Hill, these things just got way up on top of this ridgeline where the Germans never expected a tank could go, and they were infamous for their ability to climb and get over some rough, rugged terrain. So it's good to see that cross 2 reflected in the stats.
Yeah, and that's where I like version 4, where you could differentiate all these different quirks about different units, where you're not married to the whole skill is this, motivation is that, and that's it.
So they ditch the special rules, but they just integrate them into the cards.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there's a card that called Mad Tanks describing exactly the King Force Longstop Hill guys.
Yeah, we should point out that we don't have access to the command cards yet, because we were holding off to record this because we thought we'd be able to get our hands on them. But we don't have them yet. So.
But apparently that one gives grants the unit cross here. You can shoot or assault after it, which basically makes them so long as you pass that, right? It means you're crossing automatically because 2+ goes to 1+.
Holy cow! Yeah.
So it's just like, I'm assaulting into the woods. Well, I don't care. You'll just grind their faces in. It's like, well, take your cross check. That's nice. Smash, smash, smash.
So
that's perfect for cross check. Stay in effect for later rounds of combat. I don't know. But the fact that you can assault after on that one.
Yeah,
but still, just to get there. Like,
I'm with you.
I'm with you. I love it. Damn. And the fact that you could shoot or assault after. So we don't know how many points that's going to be, but that's pretty sweet.
I'm going to point out something that sort of has been a big deal in version 4 for these kinds of tanks. So as somebody who's run the Churchill formation in version 3 and had it not be terribly successful, the Churchills, there's too many high AT guns that can rip them apart in late war.
Yeah.
In mid-war, it's the queen of the desert. This thing is a monster, and it's got an 8-inch tactical move. It dashes through terrain at a 10, and it cross-country dashes on a 14. The fact that moving at the double doesn't get you shot twice in version 4 is huge. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the movement orders can apply to all these tanks. So the fact that the Churchill can blitz 4, then move 8, means it has an effective move ability of 12. It's so the movement orders in version 4 made these tanks so much better that I don't think that being a slow tank really hurts anybody anymore, Tigers or anybody.
Sure. And they can also dash with a follow me if they need to.
Yep. Those things.
So somebody will get there, yeah. But cross-country dash on a 14, I don't think anything else can cross-country dash on a 14.
No, I can cross-country dash and then do a follow me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can move 18 inches.
Yeah. And the lead tank is getting there on 18 inches.
So
it's wild. It's wild.
So I've got a chance to play a couple games against my friend Andy, who's an awesome dude who moved here from Massachusetts. He's got some of the most beautifully painted stuff I've ever seen. He's one of those guys who you look at his stuff and, well, you guys don't have the experience because you're better painters than me, but you look at their stuff and you're like, oh my God, that's so pretty. That makes me want to be a better painter. But that's good
to have though.
It's cool to have that. He has his Americans, he's playing his Shermans, and I played just the Churchill formation. And he starts firing at these things, and it's just not working. He's bounce. He's getting ripped up. The Churchills were monsters. He beat him in the second game we played. I think he broke the formation, and I think he beat me both times. But the second game, I put the Churchills in reserve because I had no choice really, because they're the most expensive thing in the world. So I put them and the Hurricanes in reserve. And when they came on, they weren't quite fast enough to get to the side of the board they had to. And he was able to sort of, outmaneuver them. And I think that that's the big weakness of a Churchill formation. Like if you have them as a support option for the infantry, then you can put them where they need to be, or you can use them as the drive. I will say I assaulted with them, like into a whole pile of bazooka wielding, like a full bulked out U.S. armored rifle platoon. And I ripped them apart. The bazookas bounced off the side and I just started grinding up bazookas. It was a horror show. Like these things are going to rip through infantry hard. Like I don't think there's anything other than an anti-tank gun behind these infantry that's going to stop these things.
Yeah. Another thing we should point out it too is that its 6-pounder gun has AT-10 instead of AT-9 like the other 6-pounders, and it also has HE for that main gun.
Yes, indeed.
And as opposed to the 6-pounders on the Crusaders or the ground versions.
And it retains their 28-inch range though.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Loving it.
It's terrific. All right, let's talk Valentine's. So this is where I go bankrupt. 40th RTR, and we have a Valentine Armored Squadron, which is the other place you can take these aside from as part of the Death or Glory Boy Squadron. And these are hit on a 4 as opposed to a 3, and I can mix it up a bit. So who wants to take this one?
Yeah, well, not only they hit on a 4, they also are confident. They're unlike the 5+ for a lot of the other units too. So their stats are pretty good. They're basically confident vets.
Mm-hmm. So you get 2 of the 2-pounder Valentines for 11 points. I'm sorry, you get 3 of them for 11 points in the Squadron HQ. That's mandatory.
That's a bargain. That is a bargain.
Oh my God. So, and these are front 6, side 6.
So you can drive them in reverse the whole way.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You could it doesn't matter which way they're facing. It's irrelevant. The 2-pounder gun is no HE. It's also overworked, which means it's a +1 on the move in addition to having the penalty to moving. So that sucks. But their range is decent, and it'll do damage to some of the smaller stuff. And it's going to have enough survivability to get around the side of some of the German panzers it might face. It'll run into a problem against Shermans, but,
the fact that you can get 3 of them for 11 points and 1 Sherman is 9 points is...
Yeah.
I mean... It's awesome.
And the mixed platoon is 13 points. So I get 3 tanks for 13 points. One of them has a 6-pounder now. And we're talking the AT-10 6-pounder, not the AT-9.
Well, strangely, though, they didn't give it HE. It's still no HE.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Oh, the British have a habit of not distributing the right ammo. That's kind of a habit of theirs, right? So I guess historically it's on point.
It should be mentioned that the 6-pounder, the Valentine 8 is... correcting myself, is side armor 5.
That one is side armor 5. Yeah.
Yes, because of the turret.
Yeah, I don't see that making a huge difference. But
take side armor 5 every day.
You can't drive them in sideways. Well, you got to think too. I mean, to be cheesy, you drive them sideways, and when they're wrecks, they form a wall. It's true.
So I guess here's the question I would ask of you, Dennis. So how do you think these things would fare against Italians, these Valentines?
The Valentines are going to be excellent against Italians. They're like the scissors against the paper, right? And the Italians are usually the paper against the rock of some of the other armies. I think their tanks, they're immune to their tanks. They're immune to the Elefantinos. The only thing that can hit them, you can maybe insult them. Yeah, and so the Lancia gun trucks, those things go down to a Vickers HMG machine gun bombardment.
Yeah.
So, because that happened.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. But you know what I mean? Like the things are, the 88s, the dug-in 88s are probably the best bet for them. But yeah, man, these guys just grind the Italian tanks. They've only got 3 MGs.
Yeah, but they're not using that. Well, no, they'll be using those.
Let's say you're facing infantry horde all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're still fine.
You're still fine because, you know, it's like,
yeah.
I love these tanks. I think they're cool looking too.
And they're plastic kit, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, they're plastic kit. It's all plastic.
Looking forward to seeing them.
The Russian players are going to be all over these.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I didn't want to have to buy more British mid-war stuff because I'm like, you know, I got a lot of stuff. Like,
I'm not going to get these.
You're not getting them?
No. I'm going to stick with the guys I'm doing are the. I actually had honeys and got rid of them. I was like, no, I'm going to stick with Crusaders, Grants, and Shermans. And I've had just these 3 Shermans I've had since when we first started playing here locally. So again, they're really old, and I need to. They're also black resin.
Man.
But I picked up a Tanks one today because my cunning plan is to run. That list I already talked about with the 2 Shermans and then 1 Grant, 2 Shermans, 1 Grant. So
yeah.
2 units of those. Yeah.
I mean, how long have you been playing Flames of War to have so many of the old green box black resin tanks?
Well, this was from the Army box. So so this would have been version 2, not version 1, and the Army box still had the old stuff. And our crappy local gaming store, we were kind of like, we're kind of getting. It was whenever Games Workshop gimped Warhammer Fantasy Battles. We're like, let's try this. And so we all decided, okay, well, this group of us were like, okay, we're each going to buy an Army box. And then one guy's like,
cool.
He goes, I got dibs on Russians. I'm like, okay. And then another guy's like, I got dibs on Germans. I'm like, I love Crusaders and I love Bren gun carriers. So I was like, I'll get those purely on the models. And they did horribly back then.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We
just Flames of War. I picked up the rifle company with the 3 Churchills, that 1,500 point boxed army from back in the day, and that was my start. And they may have been black resin. I can't remember because it was my first stuff, so I painted it, fairly quickly. So that was a decade ago.
Oh yeah, and with all Games Workshop paints because we had all the paints, right? I'm like, oh, this is great. Until I ran out of whatever the Talarn sand was. I'm like, oh, now I can't match it. Great.
I started in 2011, so I think I lose. I'm the youngest. In the game, but no, like I did. I literally picked the British because nobody else was playing them, and I was like, I'll try this. It's new. I don't want to do the Americans because I feel like it's. I don't know. I'll do them later.
I love the idea of the British in terms of they still think that their empire is super good. Their leadership, you read all the accounts of their leadership was just horrible.
Yeah,
at the beginning, it was just really, really bad. I was like, man. Just the idea of, oh, no, that's crazy. We're not going to get into a tank fight right now. Pull back. It's almost tea time. It's like, who does that? But they did that in the desert. And I'm like, that's pretty wicked. So that's why I
just watched Darkest Hour this past weekend. Finally got to see that.
I want to go see that.
I want to see that too.
I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was really good. Really motivating. Makes me want to go play more Brits.
Oh, cool.
Well, I think I'm buying that. I'm buying these things. If it's a plastic kit, I'm going to pull out that. It's my birthday this month. Happy birthday to me. Maybe you can help me with this, guys. I realize this is off topic, but so I've only had enough money to blow it on one thing. Do I go crazy for the mid-war stuff and get the Valentines, or do I get a ton of the Vietnamese local forces? Because there's a friend of mine who's going to get into that game, and I really want to get into it because that book was awesome.
Yeah, you won't need a ton of the latter. You'll get by with remarkably few.
They still have their sale. I think the Battlefront does.
The Vietnam stuff.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't go that route. I'm doing mine are desert guys using the North Vietnamese rules
because you're in the oil war.
Well, I'm running PT-76s, T-55s. I'm gonna have IS-3s. I got some PTRs, and I just ordered from a non-Battlefront company, but they're expensive. I wish Battlefront made them, but they don't yet. But a whole bunch of Taliban-looking dudes, Arab dudes with AK-74s and RPGs. So those are going to be my quote-unquote insurgents, and those would be the guys that come in on reserves from wacky board edges and all that. So that's going to be my spiel for that.
Cool.
Your local forces. Cool.
Yeah. But they're local desert forces.
Yeah, I really like that article you did with the Mid-East, using the Vietnam supplement.
Oh yeah, that was so cool. That was cool.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to play some more. My buddy's coming back from. He's deployed in Israel right now, so he's already showed me some. He showed me some blown up Syrian T-55s from the Golan Heights that he took pictures of, and apparently I don't know if he's gonna be able to smuggle it back, but there's a shop selling T-55 shells somewhere. So I might have a T-55 shell.
You get the penetrator, the rod that
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to bring it back, but
there's a big chunk of metal. But at least as the tracer's been burnt out or removed, and
I don't think it's that. I think it's more like for him, he's been over there a year, and he brought over for all his, I think it was 110 pounds he was allowed to bring over. I think 70 of those pounds was all miniatures to paint for the entire year.
Nice.
And his wife was like, "Aren't you even going to pack like underwear and stuff?" He's like, "Nah, I'll just buy that there."
Yeah, good Israeli underwear.
So I think for that one thing, it's like, nah. Think of all the miniatures I can bring back instead. So, but he's keen on playing it, so I'm pumped to play some non. But I mean, we're digressing here.
Anyway, so the last list that is new, which I was really bummed was not in the Desert Rats book because me and Tom both played this as our primary formation, was the Agrill and Sutherland Highlanders, Argyles. So, so Tom, talk about these guys.
Well, they're no surprises. 11 points for the full up platoon. With your 7 Bren gun, rifle machine gun teams, SMLE combinations, and boys ATR that we've already talked about, and the 2-inch mortar. So they're confident. They're careful, hitting on threes. They counterattack, British Bulldog in effect, and they're deadly. So they actually strike on threes. So they're even more fearless veteran than they're quite good, which is interesting because the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders under the First Army, the First Army British rifles were confident trained back in version 3 and previous iterations. And so those are the guys I'm used to running. So it's going to be a new experience for me running veteran British infantry in World War, in the mid-war portion, because I'm used to running them as confident trained, which were great for defending but can never attack. Now I got guys that can get in there and attack. So enthusiastic about running these guys. I've got them all converted up. Like my command stands have. I use the dismounted tankers that they used to make for Battlefront. And I put some green stuff to make their berets a little bit bigger and put a little ball on them, so they're all wearing little tams. And
That's
I've got a little write up there and about the. I guess it was Bravo Company from the 8th Battalion that was the one that was in the assault on Longstop Hill, and I think it's JTM Keller or something like that, or they got the Victorian Cross up there. So I'm pretty deep into this unit, and I run it even in late war too, where it is veteran. And so I use this a lot, and got a good book on the Churchill choppers, the 78th Division. So this was my first unit in Flames of War ever. So really excited to get back into it.
It has to be said real quickly. And again, we weren't going to go rehash the Desert Rats book, but they are different than the Motor Company in a couple of ways. One, the rifle guys, the HQ guys have night attack, so you can do the night attack. And the Desert Rats might have had it. I've never used it, but these guys are significantly cheaper, even when you break them down, because they aren't Bren gun MG teams; they're rifle MG teams.
Yes.
Which I think is actually better because because the motor platoons, each guy had more shots, but I mean, you had so few guys, and then boom, right away you're testing. These guys, like you were saying, for 11 points, you're getting 9 teams.
I'll also point out that
a good value.
Looking at the formation itself, comparing it to the Motor Company, you wind up if you bulk this thing out, it's going nowhere. The odds of you routing this person's formation are low because with the Motor Company, if I want to take a third motor platoon, I have to forego a potential 6-pounder platoon.
And no one will ever do that.
No one will ever do that. So you're basically taking a fragile formation. Like the Motor Company is excellent as a support option, and it's certainly cheaper. And those that are running primarily tanks will see it as an option because especially at 71 points, you just can't fit enough stuff in.
It's my go-to guys for sitting in the back.
Yep, that's what they're for.
Universal carriers can spearhead if possible. The 6-pounders are a must. One motor platoon in the Motor Company HQ. The Motor Company HQ, I use them as observers for if I'm taking guns or, for my mortars. They're great. You described it exactly. But if you want to be doing the heavy lifting with your infantry, I would almost never take the motor.
Never take them.
Company.
Yeah, I mean, so
the rifle company.
Yeah, these guys can take. Yeah,
they can take 12 universal carriers integral to the formation. It's insane.
Part of the formation, and 2 Vickers MGs which can bombard.
Yeah.
And this 3-inch mortar is integrated. And no, it's an excellent. It's.
Yeah, the 3-inch mortars can get a unit of 6. So.
Can it? They're not limited to 4.
No, you get 2, 4, or 6 for the 3-inch mortar platoon.
I didn't.
My Argyle and Southerners are the old metal guys, but I've been slowly building up the Desert Rat plastic guys, so I might be picking up some more of these cheap units just to flush them out.
I know you have an article on this coming up, or I don't know if it got published already, but the plastic infantry, I guess, like I had it on back order since November, because I wanted the motor company guys, and then apparently it was overheard at Cold Wars near the booth that I guess the guy that runs Battlefront wasn't satisfied with those sculpts, and he wanted to get a whole new cadre of them, which is the reason why they've been on back order since November. So I canceled my back order, and I just used that as store credit to get something else. Yeah, but
you heard it here first, folks.
So there's your. I don't know. You don't quote me on it, but.
But yeah, I had the first batch. They weren't particularly great, but they paint up well enough and they're durable enough. That article is still in the queue. It's been in there since February, so hopefully we'll see it in the near future. But I don't think they're as bad as made out to be.
I think they're fine.
If you're out to win Best Painted, you might want to look at other options. But then again, at Historicon last summer, I won Best Painted, and I had a motor company in my force with these guys. So, they can be painted.
There you go. Challenge accepted.
Dun, dun, dun.
Just put some work into them, and you can get them up to standard, especially for gaming standard.
Yeah,
and that's all I expected. The Best Painted was a huge surprise, but I think the Crusaders carried the weight in that formation.
So we're bumping up on time, but I'll throw in 2 final little pieces here, which is they added a Kitty Hawk fighter bomber, which is 2 points less than the Hurricane, and it has the ability to drop 500-pound bombs, which is pretty effective. I feel. I haven't had as good experience with the Hurricanes as Tom has, so I might pay for a Kitty Hawk, and I don't know.
I think to make your opponent spread out their tanks, they won't bunch up as much.
Well, I think the Hurricane. I think it's nice because they fulfill different roles for different lists. I think the Kitty Hawks with the bombs are a reach out and touch guns that you can't if you're running like infantry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're running tanks, you want to kill enemy tanks so that your tanks can then have free reign over the battlefield. So I think if you're running tanks, you'd want to run the Hurricane 2Ds with the Vickers S guns.
Okay.
The shooters. Yeah. That's just my feeling. I like that there's the option there. I was frankly shocked that they'd throw that in. I was like, wow, they just threw that in.
And I think the best armored car in the game, the little engine that could, the Daimler armored car troop, for 3 points, the same cost as the Humbers, I get a confident, careful tank unit with scout and spearhead that has the same gun as a Crusader. I get 2 of those, and they all have machine guns. Those things are nasty. They're a nasty little unit that can do a lot of damage in mid-war for 3 points.
With the loss of the scout card, I'm assuming that there will be the reconnaissance card that allows you to take a reconnaissance company. I mean, imagine taking a company full of these things.
There's 2 of them. I think one's a Humber company and one's a Daimler company.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly check.
I'm envisioning a Daimler company right now. Wish they made these guys in plastic, but
I could run it now. I mean, they wouldn't be desert camo. I could run it right now. Yeah. I kept buying them because they used to come with the dingoes in packs of 3.
Oh yeah.
It's like hot dogs and hot dog buns. You never get the right amount, and they keep tricking you into buying more.
120 of this.
Yeah, well done, Battlefront.
So the cards, there is a Daimler armored car squadron.
It's nice. There. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we know what we're playing for doubles.
Didn't Zvezda make a plastic dingo?
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
So if you got the Daimlers, you could probably pick up some dingoes from Zvezda and flush out some units.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just for you, Argyle and Sutherlanders, the Bagpiper is a card.
Yeah.
Nice, because I have that model.
I have it too. I haven't painted it up.
He's my 2IC. I'm really sad that still to this day, LRDG and SAS is not an actual unit. It's just a card.
Yeah.
Like, seriously? Do they not want my money? Because if that was in there, I would max out that formation. I would buy all of the LRDGs. All of them.
And they added this Saharianas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, for the Italians.
Sahariana.
Yeah.
Saharianas, thank you. They added those for the Italians, so come on.
Yeah.
Throw us a bone here.
All right, so we're just about out of time, but I'll say let's do closing thoughts. So Tom, you lead us off. Like, what's your overall impression of the book?
It's certainly great. I'm a little bit of controversy on bringing desert rats into it. I mean, there's some good of that and some bad of that. It's nice that the newer players can get the thing in one shot. Bad that, I already have desert rats and now I'm buying them again, but I guess I get a Churchill sprue with that. So I make enough money. I'm not too worried about it. I'll get over it. But I like particularly that with this release that the updated cards or the new cards are coming out, and they updated that scout card, which was needed. And it just shows that, we can look at new packs of cards or changes for rules fixes through the cards in the future. So hopefully this is not a precedent that is a one-time shot. Hopefully this will be iterated downrange. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get my old original mid-war British stuff out on the field. I'm excited about starting a new formation, a whole new force, the Death and Glory boys, just because I think it's just a wonky kind of combination of tanks that I just kind of like the whole theme and story behind them. So I'm definitely pumped for these. And I wanted to hold off on starting a new force for Flames of War this year, but no, it's going to be the Death and Glory boys.
Dennis, go ahead.
I'm just as a quick addendum to that. I wonder the card list is already the list of what the cards are on the Flames of War website. They don't tell us what they all are. There is a Death or Glory formation card. I wonder if that is like the Scout card where it makes all of your Death or Glory guys more awesome somehow. So I'm wondering if that's, who knows? I wonder if that's going to change things. For me, I'll say the same thing where, yes, there's some controversy in the whole, so they just made desert rats redundant. The good thing to see is, even though they're not saying it, this book is saying it. They effed up the beginning of mid-war, right? There was not enough stuff in desert rats. This is fixing it. I'm hoping when the Eastern Front book, I think it's called Iron Cross, comes out, it's going to do the same thing for the Africa Corps, because they're a little bit limited as well. It's nice to see, yes, it's going to suck to buy new unit cards, new command cards, and a new book, but exactly, it's fixing what was wrong, right? We saw it with Avanti and with First to Fight. They included a lot of options in those books, and then this is fixing desert rats. So I'm liking the direction that this is going. Like, yes, I can say I'm a British player and I like a bunch of the units in here, but even for just the game, this is a step in the right direction, even though they'll never admit it, right? But this is for sure a step in the right direction into making Mid-War version 4 better. For me, it's pretty much the end for Mid-War for me, only because I have 4 armies and all of them are in the desert. So, I mean, unless, and even if in the Eastern Front book they have like stuff like the 7.5 centimeter infantry gun and Pack 40s, which I know they'll have, I already have those painted. And Nebelwerfers, I already have those painted for the desert. So I am set in terms of models for this. I don't know if I might get some more Crusaders, more plastic Crusaders. I will feel better playing them now that that old Scout card is done. Oh, and I probably will light that card on fire and videotape it when I get my hands on Armored Fist video ones. But yeah, I'm really psyched for what this means for my army, but also for the game, I guess is what
I think I echo everything you guys said. Like, I think this is the book that Desert Rats should have been when it came out. And it's got everything in here I want to play if I'm a British player in the desert. I was bummed when they didn't come out with the Churchills, and I was surprised it took them so long. I thought the command cards were going to have it in there, but I get why they did it the way they did it. I think that this makes the Germans like a clear fourth tier runner up. You know, they have enough options to be somewhat competitive, but they're not the Italians. They're not they could take Italian. The Italians. So the Italian book is almost a better book for a German player to have. I'm really looking forward, like Dennis said, to the Eastern Front book. I think Battlefront, for all the criticisms that people will throw their way, I feel like I have to give them credit because, at least in my experience, when they've been presented with a problem, it might take them a little longer than people might like, but they do fix it. When one of the issues in version 3 was that there were too many special rules, they integrated them. When they had issues with production for the housing stuff, they fixed it. And when they heard the player base complain about the lack of options in this, then they made a new book. And
the game mats too. Yeah,
the game mats too. And I'll also say that I can't come up with another example of a company that lowered their prices. I look at Games Workshop and they're like, oh, we made this out of Citadel Finecast. Now it's plastic. Isn't that great? That'll be an extra $50. And I look at Battlefront and they lowered the cost of their books because their publishing costs went down. And I look at them, they made their plastics, they're like, we'll make it cheaper. And I think that, Plastic Soldier Company pushes them in that direction to a degree, and they're responding to outside forces. But it's nice to see a company that's adaptable and that listens to its player base, because that's what I take out of that. So I love the book. I think it's a must buy for anybody who wants to play British, or who has the models already. This sort of replaces it. Don't forget to bring your Desert Rats book in and get your free Churchill. Tom Burgess mentioned that, but take advantage of it while you can, because I know that they're distributing all that stuff. And we've gone about 10 minutes over, so I'm sure Mitch will let me have it when he gets this recording in the mail. But thank you to Tom Burgess and Matt Varnish for joining me tonight. And Chairborne is signing off. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we hope to see you soon at a tournament near you.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at NoDiceNoGlory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.